We have Sarah Backhouse, the Development Board's Regional Water Planning Manager, who's going to be providing an update, I think a very timely one, on the regional water planning process. So with that, Sarah's screen, I think, is getting shared, and we'll get her camera on and give her a warm tag welcome. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Yes, thanks. And I'm gonna turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Backhouse. I'm the manager of the Regional Water Planning Program at the Texas Water Development Board. So I just have a few updates for you today. I'll be covering the topics I have listed on the slide there. So these are some of our larger program activities that we've either been working on this year or that we have upcoming in the near future. So for the 2021 regional water plans, so the planning process, is on this 5-year planning cycle. We're about to wrap up the 5th cycle of regional water planning. So earlier this year, the regional water planning groups all adopted their draft regional water plans and made those available to the public. All the planning groups held virtual public hearings on their plans, and they've been working to address comments on their plans and finalize them. So we do have 9 regions that have already adopted their final 2021 regional water plans, and the rest of the regions will be adopting them this month and the remainder of October. Those are due to the Water Development Board by November 5th. We had them initially due in October, but extended the deadline a little bit due to some delays with COVID and staffing resources. Once we do receive the final regional water plans from the planning groups, we do review those to make sure they have adequately addressed our initially prepared plan comments. And then those will be taken to our board for approval. And then following approval of those plans, we'll be making them available on our agency website at the link there. And each planning group also maintains their own website, and they'll be posting them on those individual planning group websites as well if you want to access them sooner. And then after our board approves the plans, we do, as you probably know, let me switch slides, sorry. The regional water plans are the basis for the state water plan. So that's the next step in the process. We have already been drafting some content for the 2022 state water plan. And once we get those final plans in and the data is all approved, we'll be incorporating that into the state water plan as well. So our timeline for putting the 2022 state water plan out is actually spring of next year. So you'll be seeing probably a lot of information about that from our agency when we get closer to that point. For the state water plan, after the draft is published, there will be a public comment period, and then there'll also be a public hearing prior to our board members actually adopting the state water plan. And we kind of anticipate that adoption occurring by the summer of next year in 2021. After the final 2022 state water plan is approved next year, we'll also be putting out another version of our interactive state water plan site. So if y'all have had a chance to use that for the 2017 state water plan, it's a really useful tool to view the data in all different geographic views. And so we will have that available again for the 2022 data. Another process that we've started to work on is reviewing the regional water planning area boundaries. And so this is a required process that our agency undertakes every 5 years. So there's 16 regional water planning groups, and they're all within the planning areas. Those boundaries were initially established at the beginning of the regional water planning process back in 1998. I think in February they were established after significant stakeholder process. They have not changed to date, even though we look back at this and review them every 5 years. So the last time they were reviewed and reaffirmed was back in 2015, so we're at that time again. But factors that will be considered in the review process will be river basins and aquifers, water utilities, socioeconomic factors, political subdivision boundaries, and existing planning areas. So our process for this will be sending out a email communication to planning group stakeholders beginning mid-October to solicit input from them on the boundaries and whether or not they recommend changes. And there'll be probably a 45-day comment period with that public notice. After we receive the public comments, we'll be reviewing those, and then our executive administrator will take a board item in the early next year, February or March, probably, to our board to either reaffirm the boundaries again or proceed with changes. If there are changes recommended, the process would extend and there would be a public hearing held by the agency with another 30-day notice prior to taking any action on actually making changes. So a really big project that our agency has been involved with, and many planning group members as well, has been the InterRegional Planning Council. So for anyone that isn't aware of this, it's a council made up of one member from each of the planning groups. It was established last legislative session by House Bill 807. And there'll be a new council for each planning cycle. So this inaugural council is established, or was established, and then they'll be dissolving when the 2022 state water plan is adopted, and then we'll be kind of starting over with a new council. But the legislation in House Bill 807 did set out specific charges for the council to address. So they had to cover topics such as improving coordination among the planning groups and between the planning groups and the Water Development Board in meeting the goals of the planning process, facilitating dialogue regarding water management strategies affecting multiple regions, and also sharing best operational practices among planning groups. And since the council does have to submit a report to the Water Development Board, and we did want that report to be due to us before moving into the next legislative session. So the council's report is currently due to us. I have that on the next slide. I don't. It's due to us on October 16th. But since there was such a short time frame to, address the charges and get the report to us, the council broke up into 3 committees. So the topics that I have listed on this slide, enhancing interregional coordination, planning for water resources for the state, best practices in interregional conflicts, were all addressed through different committees that formed to accomplish the work. And the council and the committees as a whole met over 20 times between April and through the end of this month. So there's a lot of hours that went into developing the recommendations from this report. So the report does include recommendations to different entities. So there's recommendations to the Water Development Board, to the legislature, to regional water planning groups, and to future planning councils. So you can see the draft report online if you're interested in learning more about what the council did and what their deliberations were. Their draft report has over 50 recommendations in it. So you can see that's a lot of thought that went into that and a lot of potential improvements to the process that'll come from this. The council is actually holding a meeting tomorrow afternoon on September 30th at 1:30, where they do have an agenda item to adopt this report and authorize it to be submitted to the TWDB. If you are interested, that is, of course, access open to the public, and the access information is on our website on the Interregional Planning Council page. And I believe that an overview of the report will be presented at the October 19th work session that our agency will be holding mid-October. And then other program updates. So these are a couple of upcoming things for us, and this will be kind of concluding my update here. So the planning cycles just start, right after the one ends, we start the next one. So we're already getting ready to start the 6th cycle of regional water planning, which will end up being the 2026 regional water plans and the 2027 state water plan. So our team members on regional water planning at the agency are already kind of drafting initial contract material and getting that ready to distribute next year through request for applications. And we anticipate getting contracts out next summer that'll be underway by the end of this current fiscal year. And then next year, we'll also be opening our state water planning guidance principles for revision and review. So the state water planning guidance principles are in our TAC rules 358. Those also inform our regional water planning rules. And it's also required by statute that we revisit those every 5 years. And so we'll be going through some rule revisions again. And we also anticipate opening our planning rules again. There's potential changes that do come from the council's report that require rule updates or anything potentially from the legislative session happening next year. And then I also just wanted to point out that we do have a educational resources page specifically for regional water planning if you wanted to learn more about it or just to kind of check out what's on there. We do have that link there on my slide, which I just realized is an internal link. I'm sorry about that, guys. I can send you, Leah, an updated link. But if you go to our main page and regional water planning, there's an educational information sidebar that should be pretty easy to find. But we do have access to new member information for anyone that's on the planning group and wanted to learn a bit more. And we do have quite a few informational documents going a little bit more detail into planning processes and terms that are helpful for either new members, existing members, or the public. So I just wanted to point that out as well. And I think that wraps up my slides. So whoops, there's my contact information. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take anything or feel free to follow up with me separately.
Thanks so much, Sarah. We did have one question come in the questions tab.
Okay.
Lonnie, I might unmute you and let you ask it yourself because I have a feeling that you might need to ask a follow-up. So I'll unmute you here, Lonnie. Lonnie, if you want to ask your question of Sarah.
Yes, Sarah, how you doing?
Hey, Lonnie.
The new GAM model, is it going to affect for GMA 15 and GMA 16? Is it going to affect the new state water plan or the next state water plan?
I don't know that off the top of my head. If that's been used for the DFCs that y'all are working on now. So whatever the current DFC processes y'all are working on should be what's used for the MAGs in the next round of planning. But I don't know off the top of my head if y'all are using the updated model or not. So I could follow up with you.
Okay, but when we finish the DFC, by the time we get it into y'all and get everything approved all the way through, the new plan should be ready, hopefully. Are y'all going to use it for the MAG or going to use the old one? It may be completely different.
Well, whatever MAGs are established by, or DFCs by a certain date would be what's used. So I don't have the dates right in front of me, but I know that,
Yeah, but
whatever the current process y'all are working on now would be, MAGs that go into these next round of plans would be updated MAGs.
Mm-hmm. And the process currently, that's not going to wrap up until May of next year, May 2021. So it sounds like it's the next state water plan.
Yeah, so the 2026 regional water plans, 2027 would be what that would go into.
Thanks for that. Okay, double check if we had any other questions come in. I don't see any in the questions tab, and I don't see any hands up, but as I mentioned before, we will post these, make the slides available so everyone will have your contact information if they have any follow-up. And we'll be sure to get that other link from you as well. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, bye.
Happy to have you.